Hi, guys. Happy Monday. Let me know if you guys can hear me loud and clear. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Let me know if you can hear me. Happy Man Up Monday. The judge will be up shortly. Hi, Katalia. Hello, Mel. Thank you so much for the early super chat, guys. As you can see in the chat, in the live chat, I have a goal 10 $5 and up super chats, and we will extend the show an extra hour. Yeah. So let's see if we could reach the goal. Hi, Calvin. J. Miguel, Red Bunny. Yes. Hi, Marla. Barb. Hi, everybody. So, Angel. Okay. So you guys can hear me. You know what I forgot? I forgot to create a monologue. I don't really have a monologue for you guys today. And I'm trying to pull something out my ass right now as a monologue, but I can't think of one. So let's just do a little bit of housekeeping. And hopefully the judge will come on any minute now so we can get right into the show. All right. Of course, we have to talk about Zelensky versus Trump versus JD Vance. Yeah. And how Zelensky caved in as he should. He is ready to sign that mineral deal. But as of a couple hours ago, Trump is withdrawing aid from Ukraine as he should because it's too much money. Too much money. That last administration, it was just printing money and spending, printing money and spending, printing money and spending. Now Trump is doing cleanup in the first quarter, which is going to spill into the second quarter. Traffics on Canada and Mexico, I believe, is going to start in April. So there's a lot going on. It's a lot going on, and everybody wants to blame Trump and his administration. It ain't all. It ain't his fault. It ain't all. It's none of it. It's his fault. He just got sworn in a month ago, and he's doing cleanup. But how dare you come to the White House, honey, in all black like you a militant? So we're gonna get into a recap. You know, we always talk about Fanny. Well, honey, we got to talk about Stacy. Yes, they got the flashlight up her ass, as they should, as they should. And I don't care. It's not about color. It's not about color. If it's a white crooked politician, please let me know, and we will expose that politician. But over here on this channel, we expose politicians. Oh, tariff starts at midnight. Excuse me. I don't know when she's due back in court for her deposition, Red Bunny, but she has to go because that judge said this is absurd. Denied. Answer the subpoena and show up and testify. So what was I saying? Zelynsky is a slop. Yes. Oh, Stacy. So they investigated Fanny. Now they're investigating Stacy. It's payback. Because best believe if Miss Thing would have been elected president, Trump would have already been behind bars. All of his co-defendants would have been behind bars. It would have been all types of investigations and lawsuits into Republicans or whoever. So who's right, who's wrong? The proof is in the evidence. What can you prove? Well, the Republicans and the Trump administration, they're proving their case and all the corruption and the wasteful spending. So we got to talk about Stacey Abrams. Stacy. Oh, yes, and we are doing a Oscar recap. I may start off talking about the Oscars just to get the pop culture out the way. Andrew Tate, he did an interview on PBD. It was very interesting. It was a 3-hour interview. That man is a narcissist, but a lot of things he was saying were true. Well, it was true. It was a very interesting interview. He's back on American soil, but he got to take his ass back to Romania to go to court. That's his business. So we may just I do have a clip that I want to play of Andrew Tate's interview today on PBD, and that interview actually did go viral. And then Lewis Hamilton, we're going to talk about Lewis Hamilton because, honey, Formula One starts this month. And the Formula One show, F1, comes out on Netflix on Friday. So we got to talk about Lewis Hamilton. That's going to be later in the show. Oh, honey, and you know what? I'm going to have a mammy section, a mammy segment of the show. That's my monologue today. Mammy. I'm going to have a mammy segment on Monday shows. And maybe when I do my podcast too. Because Jasmine Crockett, she's in the mammy segment tonight. So is Stacy Abrams. Fanny is the Hall of Famer of the mammy. But Jasmine is in there. Stacy is in there. We're about to get Letitia James in there. So yes, I'm going to have a mammy segment of tonight's show. Because they're doing too much. And the reason why I don't feel bad talking about these Black political figures, specifically these Black women political figures, because they are funded by the white man. Yes. All this racism and all this woke stuff they want to tote, they're funded by the white man. So I don't feel bad talking about them all, calling them mammies, because they're doing no good. They don't help the Black community, never did, and they never will. They're out for self. They're out for self. What else I got on here? And I may also, but this is just a sidebar. I think I'm gonna have to have another segment when we're talking about these activists and activism. Yeah, because there are a lot of fake activists. There are a lot of fake movements, even in 2025. They're not legitimate organizations. They're not even organizations at all. People think because you have a popular or a strong following on social media that you're legit. That doesn't make you legit because you have a lot of people liking, listening, reposting your social media videos. I don't care if you on YouTube. I don't care if you on TikTok or X. That doesn't mean you are an activist. That doesn't mean you have a legitimate organization. Honey, if you have an organization and it's not a 501c, you don't have an organization. It is not legit. People who I bring on this show are legit. Now, we had a couple of hiccups, but they got exposed for not being legit. So that we're going to talk about during the show a little bit later. Now, he texted and said, look for him, and I don't see him yet. I don't want to hear nothing about the Wi-Fi. I just don't. What else? Oh, can I get back to the mammies real quick? Can you get the show started now, Dana? I did not come to listen to you, only the judge. Christian Wilson, do you see the judge here? You idiot. Do you? See, I'm not going to be nice. I did not come here to listen to you, only the judge. Well, he ain't here, so you have to listen to me. And if you don't like it, you could go. Should I put you on a timeout? Do you see the judge here? He's not here yet, honey. When he gets here, you will see him on the screen. So I could get the show started, but you're going to have to be listening to me. And if you don't want to, you're free to go. Do you want me to assist you with the little timeout? You know, sometimes you have to talk to people as if they're children because that's the only way they understand things. Either you got to cuss somebody out or you have to talk to them like they are a kid. That's the only way people understand things nowadays. People who don't have any sense. I guess he forgot about I do a monologue because I have to do a monologue to wait for the judge to come in because he has Pony Express Wi-Fi. Keep looking. Phone keeps failing to connect. Now he's saying the phone keeps failing to connect. He's going outside. You see that? I told you he has Pony Express Wi-Fi. He has to go outside to log on. Then he's going to walk back in the house. Yes. Oh my God. You have to talk to people either like kids or you got to cuss them out. It's the only option. The people who have no common sense. So let's get back to the mammies. I think I have to come up with a word for male mammies, just like that comment I just posted for Christian, male mammy, because I think that was a guy, a male mammy. Yes. So it's too many mammies, whether you are a woman or a man, it's too many mammies nowadays. And it's not enough serious people. And the people that are really doing the job, doing the work, genuine people that are really doing it because they want to make a difference, they're not promoted or acknowledged enough, if at all. And it's really because of you guys. You really have to start the same way you sit up here and you talk about and you tweet and you comment about all this celebrity tea stuff or whatever. You got to do the same, have that same energy for people who are actually doing good in a community. You have to. You have to acknowledge people who are bringing you information, such as myself and Judge Joe Brown, when he uncovers the corruption that are going on, particularly in Fulton County. You have to start paying attention, commenting, sharing, and watching that type of content just as much as you do celebrity stuff. Don't act like you don't listen to the gossip and the tea, because you do, men and women. But you really have to start showing more love and more attention to the people who are exposing the corruption that affects us every single day. That affects us every single day. Also, can you guys please subscribe to my X account at The Real Dana number 7? Excuse me. Because now every Thursday and Friday night, I hold my own X space and I upload those X spaces on Saturday. And, you know, it's starting to pick up speed. We have good conversation. It's starting to pick up traction. Let's see here. Yeah. I got to put the judge's X space there too. And every Tuesday, Judge Joe, he hosts his X space every Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern. So we'll be on X tomorrow if he's not busy. Hi.
Mm-hmm.
You hear me?
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna put him backstage until he gets settled. Because I don't need to be looking all up in his house. I just want to make sure he can hear me. What is he setting up? Let's give him 2. Give him 2 minutes. Give him 2. Okay, give him a couple of minutes. I still see him setting up. He needs time. He needs time. So yeah, what else? You know what? I think a lot of celebrities are laying low because, you know, people, Jay-Z, he is suing Tony Busby and that girl that tried to sue him. He is suing them, as he should, rightfully so. But yeah, but it's been all about Trump lately. Okay, there you go. All right. Hi, Judge.
Yes. Let's see. Okay.
How are you?
I'll manage.
You look good. Say
Spiffy.
thank you.
Thank you. Be spiffy and bedazzled anyway.
So, okay. So, of course, we have to do the recap of the showdown, hoedown at the White House on Friday with Trump and JD Vance, VP JD Vance, and they had to check Donald Trump. I mean, they had to check Zelensky, right? And everybody, you saw the clips, right?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it. I always was offended when America's representatives always went in there meek, mild, or just totally incoherent, like Harris did when she was sent over to Europe because Biden couldn't handle it. I like this. He just, this is the way to do it. This is how the deal's done. When you have a position of strength, use it.
Mm-hmm.
No reason to be acting like you don't. So it works. Let's watch.
Okay.
This thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred. And I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either. So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world. I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe. I want to see if we can get this thing done. You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough. But you're never going to get a deal that way. So that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
Hey, I want to respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now the President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact line?
2015.
2014.
2014 and 2015.
2014.
Yeah. So
I
killed,
was not here.
Yeah, but
that's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire, all of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Count once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. Yeah, you're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's back to you, far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once? This entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you? You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you can...
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No, you've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet.
You haven't been alone.
In this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion. We gave you military equipment, and your men are brave, but they had to use our military. If you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days. I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. This is something
maybe
new.
Less.
In 2 weeks. Of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this.
Again,
I tell you.
just say thank you.
I said a lot of times to American people.
Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards. You're buried there. Your people are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go, and I want this. Look. If you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
With guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me.
For you
that wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden, who was not a smart person. That was with Obama.
It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry.
It's going to be a tough deal to make because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia...
Interesting.
That's all you're going to say.
Interesting.
Well,
like, in other words, Zelynsky campaigns all through Philly and Pennsylvania to defeat Trump, and now he's here trying to ask Trump for help. You know, stick it. We don't need him. If Russia took Ukraine, we wouldn't be any worse off, any better off than we are right now, other than the fact we'd be better off because there's no incipient war going on and less opportunity for it to escalate, and let Putin put him on the wall or whatever the Russians are still doing these days. So it's like the American Revolution. If the revolutionaries had lost in what they started in 1776, they would have swung at the end of an English rope. He started the Civil War. He didn't exactly start it, but he didn't take care of the Nazism that had arisen in Ukraine. He didn't take care of the, well,
this
the
is
crime and sex trafficking, and he's trying to help the U.S. be a conduit to spread the rainbow, and the rest of Europe doesn't, well, really the world doesn't like it. So Russia is stepping in. And in there, the Ukrainians have said, we've been part of the Russian thing for a millennium. We want to go back. That's like Texas saying, hey, we want to go back to the United States. Ukraine was the biggest state in the old Soviet Union. So here we go.
So this is a remark that Trump made after that White House visit.
Mr. President, how long do you think it will take for Zelensky to want peace and be invited back to the White House?
Well, he says he wants it now. He wants to come back right now, but I can't do that.
Are you going to end?
What does Zelensky need to do to restart talks with you?
He's got to say, I want to make peace. He doesn't have to stand there and say about Putin this, Putin that, all negative things. He's got to say, I want to make peace. I don't want to fight a war any longer. His people are dying. He doesn't have the cards, just so you understand it, okay?
So,
see, Biden was in a position of running afoul of the Section 6 of the Constitution that says we have to honor ratified treaties. And one of our treaties with Ukraine said we would apprehend, detain, and extradite all parties wanted by their criminal process. And Biden is the subject, along with his son and a few others, of a long, multi-count organized crime indictment.
mm-hmm.
So it looks like Biden did what he did to escape the consequences and get them to dismiss the counts against him. I don't know where that is. The current American media has studiously avoided dealing with that topic. So I imagine Biden wasn't doing what he was doing in the interest of the United States so much as he was doing what he was doing because allegedly his son and some other people he was sponsoring got caught making money for the family in the wrong kind of way by organized white collar crime.
Well, this also came in today. The U.S. shifts aid stance on Ukraine amid Russia policy review. President Donald Trump has decided to pause all military aid to Ukraine amid tensions following a contentious meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky. This decision comes as the U.S. explores optional sanctions relief for Russia, aiming to improve bilateral relations. Zelensky's recent comments suggesting a prolonged conflict with Russia have met with criticism from Trump, affecting U.S. policy towards the ongoing war.
See, Ukraine can't fight that without extensive and very expensive U.S. assistance.
Mm-hmm.
So the U.S. is saying, you know, like I just looked at my Medicare bill today and what it doesn't cost with the hospitals and stuff like that. And I'm looking at this ridiculous price, and I'm looking at cost of living increases, and I'm looking at other stuff, and I don't give a damn about Ukraine. I don't like the fact that Stalin never did deal with the Nazi problem. I don't like them trying to spread the rainbow cult. And I certainly understand that a lot of Ukrainians, especially the ones that are of recent African descent, want to go back into Russia because they're not getting a good deal right now. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't need to go intervene and their situation. Let them handle it.
Right.
If he wants to win, he can negotiate right now and do at least a ceasefire before a lot of mess happens.
Yeah, I just think if you constantly have your hand out for Americans to, fund your war with Russia, and you have a new administration, it's like, listen, you need to come to a ceasefire, you need to come to agreement. It is about peace. It's, you need to fall in line. You come in there and you say thank you. Let's work this out. Let's end this war. What do you need me to do?
See, look, based on
Basically bend the knee.
petroleum, gas, minerals, trade, and other things are falling down with this shoot 'em up over in the Ukraine. So it's in our interest for it to stop. It would be more in our interest to normalize relationships with Russia than it would be with Ukraine. And Ukraine still suffers the sin of having been the main source of non-Germanic Nazis during the World War II era, and they never were punished for it because Stalin told the Nuremberg trials to keep their hands off. He'd deal with it, but he never got a chance to, or he let go of his chance. So Nazism is on the rebound in the Ukraine, and that's something the world does not need to face again.
Exactly. So I want to play, this is JD Vance remarks recently discussing that contentious meeting with Zelensky.
And I do think that there was just a certain sense there was a lack of respect. There was a certain sense of entitlement. And most importantly, look, we can look past all of that stuff, but the president has set a very clear goal for his administration. He wants the killing to stop. And I think that it's very important that President Zelensky and, of course, President Putin, too, they've both got to come to the negotiating table. And that's ultimately where things broke apart. I really don't care what President Zelensky says about me or anybody else, but he showed a clear unwillingness to engage in the peace process that President Trump has said is the policy.
Yeah, you can't hear it? Can you hear me? Oh. Okay, he couldn't hear me. Just give him a second to come back in. Could you guys, you could hear it, right? Let me see. I have my thing right here. Yeah, you guys can. Okay. All right. We just gotta wait for the judge to come back in. Something must have happened. Okay. Well, thank you, Danny. Audio is fine. Thank you. It must sometimes, like when you on these streaming services on your phone, and if somebody call you, it kind of knocks out the audio, and it could knock your connection off as well. What happened? Let me just text him. What happened? I don't want to call him because he may be trying to get on, and if I call, I'm gonna be knocking him off. So I just sent him a text. We have several things to get into after this. So there you go. Did somebody try to call you or something? Can you hear me?
I don't know what it was. I hear you.
Okay. All right. So I'll play this back. All right. I'll play it back.
And I do think that there was just a certain sense there was a lack of respect. There was a certain sense of entitlement. And most importantly, look, we can look past all of that stuff, but the president has set a very clear goal for his administration. He wants the killing to stop. And I think that it's very important that President Zelynsky and, of course, President Putin, too, they've both got to come to the negotiating table. And that's ultimately where things broke apart. I really don't care what President Zelensky says about me or anybody else, but he showed a clear unwillingness to engage in the peace process process that President Trump has said is the policy of the American people and of their president. That's the real breakdown. Is I think Zelensky wasn't yet there, and I think frankly now still isn't there, but I think he'll get there eventually. He has to. And I do think
Yeah.
Okay, he said entitlement. I have been thinking that for the last few days. What we saw is the same kind of thing that is behind entitlement here in the United States. Because you perceive yourself as having some kind of exalted or special or particularly pathetic situation where you think everybody ought to be going, woe are they, as you are going, woe is me, and you think you're entitled to some kind of relief, that's wrong, because you're not. And people who think they're entitled to stuff ought to take a look at this and show how the real world works. It doesn't. You're not entitled just because you think you are. You have to offer something. And right now, the Ukraine has absolutely nothing to offer in return for our charity. And at this point, it's a matter of, do we act charitably when we cannot afford to without impoverishing ourselves? And if we went out on a limb, what would we get for doing it? Answer, nothing.
Yeah, because
It'd be one thing if you were defending democracy, republic, all of this, but you were defending Nazism. See, if you stripped Zelensky's shirt off and you saw the wife beater underneath, I guarantee you'd be looking at swastikas tattooed on him.
yeah. Now, and also I really he thought that he could somehow persuade or shame Trump into eventually sending United States troops into Ukraine. And first of all, American people do not want to see that. I did read somewhere that the UK was deploying some peace union troops. I don't know, but we don't need to be sending no military troops there, and we definitely need to stop sending them money and weapons. Like that whole thing just has. It was a waste of money. 300 billion and more. It was just a waste of money, and we're not getting nothing from it.
Modern warfare depends upon mechanized vehicles, tanks, artillery, personnel carriers, and such like. And Great Britain doesn't even have 150, maybe 200 tanks in its whole inventory. That's not even a week's supply. So they're just talking big. They can't even staff one of their new carriers because they have leased some aircraft from the United States Navy. It's absolutely a pathetic situation. India, Pakistan, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Nigeria, all of these former possessions that they held, they're now in a stronger position than Great Britain is. It's third rate, other than the fact it still has a few decrepit nukes in its stockpile. But that aside, we don't need to be over there. There's no reason to get embroiled in that. We have too much to gain from normalization of trade with Russia than we do for getting embroiled in Ukraine. This is like our own history says we did everything we could diplomatically. We sent Ben Franklin over to France during the Revolutionary War to neutralize Britain getting involved. We sent Frederick Douglass and others over to Europe during the American Civil War to keep Europe from getting involved in the fracas we were having over here. And we need to stay the hell out of their fracas between Ukraine, which has been part of the Russian hegemony for the last 1,000+ years, and we need to let them work this out. Mm-hmm. There is nothing humanitarian about helping out a bunch of Nazis who still haven't gotten their comeuppance for what they did during World War II.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is it true that part of the reason why Russia invaded Ukraine, or the war started, is because Ukraine, they made a deal with Russia not to join NATO, but then they were trying to join NATO?
Yeah, well, see, all of the above. See, Ukraine had a position relative to the Soviet Union like Texas has with the United States. So let's supposing that the United States says we're going to dissolve this union, and anybody can do what they want to do, and Texas decided to go its way. But 30 years after the fact, Texas said, well, we got a whole bunch of people who want to come back. It isn't so good here where we are right now. We want to rejoin. So that's what that's all about. Main thing, though, is still this resurgent Nazism.
Well,
and we have nothing to get out of it. There's not one thing we gain except perhaps principle. But the point is that Great Britain isn't putting much into NATO nor into the Euro Union's peacekeeping forces. France isn't putting much into it. Germany isn't putting much into it. And they're right there to fill the gap where in World War II, going both ways at the beginning and end of the war, tanks were pouring through that gap from the Ukrainian plains or to the Ukrainian plains from the start of World War II, 1941, 40. Yeah. So, I mean, it's what are they putting into it?
Yeah, like we can't be the only country doing all the damn work for everybody. Like we're not everybody's savior. We need to look out for ourselves. So switching gears just a tiny bit, tariffs, right? Just real quick. So apparently the tariffs on Canada and Mexico supposed to start at midnight tonight. And Trump tweeted this on Truth. Well, he posted this on Truth Social. To the great farmers of the United States, get ready to start making a lot of agricultural products to be sold inside of the United States. Tariffs will go on external product on April the 2nd. Have fun.
Yeah, in other words, we have to subsidize our farming industry to keep it from going flat busted because of trade situations. Now, our farmers get undercut because others can charge or ask for lower prices. We get stuck with the ill-advised economics of the last administration and the one next before that, the Obama administration for 8 years, and to an extent, the incompetence of the Bush administration for 8 years. And what we wind up getting is mass inflation and a devaluation of the agricultural products that come out of the United States. So we are having to subsidize our farmers to keep them operating such as they are. And there's no point in us sending massive aids to NATO on behalf of Canada or anywhere else, or Mexico, or NORAD, North American Air Defense, for both of the above. There's no point in doing that when we are undercutting ourselves by the necessity for extremely high taxation to keep our agricultural industry operative in the face of international competition that we aid rather than controlling. So I like the idea.
I want to play this clip here. It says, so Trump just confirmed 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Let's see.
Like
very importantly, tomorrow,
where they make Twinkies now, and Twinkies require milk and wheat products. Twinkies are made in Mexico. Hostess Twinkies.
Oh.
But very importantly, tomorrow tariffs 25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico, and that'll start. So they're going to have a tariff. So what they have to do is build their car plants, frankly, and other things in the United States, in which case they have no tariffs. In other words, you build, and this is exactly what Mr. Wei is doing, by building here. Otherwise, they'll build, if they did them in Taiwan to send them here, they'll have 25% or 30% or 50% or whatever the number may be someday. It'll go only up. But by doing it here, he has no tariff, so he's way ahead of the game. And I would just say this to people.
See what he's talking about? It's about trade. By the way, black folk need to watch this. Politics, diplomacy, international relations, and what black folk think they're trying to get is about bargaining. In other words, you start building your cars here in the United States, then we start backing off the tariffs. you start putting your investment capital here in stone and mortar or brick and mortar facilities in the United States and employing Americans, we start easing the tariffs so you don't feel the pain as much. See, Japan has car manufacturing plants all through the Southeast. Does Mexico? Mexico has some stuff. Canada has some plants that they could transplant down here. Why are they not doing it?
Mm-hmm. Well, it says here, and I'm going to play this clip. CEO of Taiwan Semiconductors just officially announced $100 billion investment into the United States. They will build 3 new manufacturing plants in Arizona and produce their most powerful chips there. Arizona, get ready for thousands of new jobs. I want to play this clip.
And by the way, Memphis, they're bringing in the South Korean Blue Oval, and they might bring in the next 3 or 4 years 100, 150,000 people. So the point is, what are we getting out of it? Locals are trying to make sure they don't have to put anything into it. If the local corrupt politicos get a little money in their chump change in their pockets. So why are we bending over backwards to not employ 30-some thousand employees that could be drawn from the impoverished Memphis community that has a stupid mayor, stupid city council, stupid chief of police, stupid sheriff, stupid DA, stupid committee to cut down crime saying that the young people need jobs? That's 30,000 jobs in the immediate area that are being given away to the South Koreans rather than kept here in the United States for the local residents to help reduce the crime problem. Mm-hmm. So they're talking out of the back of their mouths, and I know what the crooks are getting because they're getting some chump change, which looks big to them.
Right. Let me play.
TSMC is the world's largest chip manufacturing, funded by Dr. Morris Chen in 1987. It's now at the forefront of semiconductor technology, supporting AI advancement and industry growth. In fact, I would like to wind back the time that in 2020, we have to thank President Trump's vision and his support. So TSMC start the journey of establishing the advanced chip manufacturing in Arizona. And now, let me proudly say, now the vision become reality. In Phoenix, Arizona, with 3,000 employees, we are producing the most advanced chip made on U.S. soil. With the success of our first fab, so we are now very happy to announce we are going to invest additional $100 billion in addition to our current $65 billion investment in Arizona. We are going to build 3 more new fabs after we promised 3 fabs already, and another 2 very advanced packaging fab, and most important, R&D center also in Arizona. For this, all the investment, $165 billion, is going to create thousands of high-paid jobs, as the president just announced. And we are, most important, actually, we are going to produce many AI chips. We are going to produce many chips to support the AI progress and to support the smartphones progress.
Wow, we whoopee. And in Memphis, they are giving away 30,000, not 3,000, not 1,000, as he was talking about, but 30,000 jobs that could go to locals that are not. And then we're getting stiffed with having to renovate the utility companies so they can, to the tune of several $billion, we have to pay for, suffer for poor services, cut off electricity, cut off water services, decrepit infrastructure for such things so that we can pay for putting in a line that we get absolutely nothing out of outside of the county we live in.
Mhm.
So certain people can get enriched.
Right.
It's
Well,
crazy.
well,
And that's what's been happening with the Biden administration and the blue folk. They have been stealing, just like we've been looking at down in Fulton County, stealing from everybody and trying to sanctimoniously talking about they're protecting the people.
yeah, right. Well, going back to these tariffs, Canada has responded, right? It says Ontario, Canada's Premier Doug Ford just threatened to cut U.S. electricity to several American states if Trump's tariffs go into effect. So here's the clip.
Remember, Trump is trying to drill, baby, drill, so we don't have to worry about that. And then you have the damn Democrats worried about cutting off our energy sources. So we are subject to lightweight blackmail by somebody like Canada.
If they want to try to annihilate Ontario, I will do everything, including cut off their energy, with a smile on my face. So, and I'm encouraging every other province to do the same. Quebec, Manitoba, BC, we all have to act in unison. Out east, they rely on our energy. They need to feel the pain. They want to come at us hard, we're going to come back twice as hard. If they
Sure.
Wasn't he the one that was smoking crack or something? He had some controversy.
Canada has a few little outposts, trading posts that look like modern cities in the midst of a whole lot of wilderness. Northwest Mounted Police. You know, they look magnificent in their red coats, but they're still mounted police because there's so much wilderness to patrol.
Right. Yeah. So somebody said, why is Canada controlling our lights, our electricity, our energy?
Because they have our industry, our energy industry has been allowed to get decayed and decrepit under the Biden, Obama, the Bush, and the Clinton administrations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's going to be like Michigan or upstate Ohio, like those border states are use the energy or whatever they apply energy to. But yeah, I'm just listen, take your L.
And by the way,
Mhm.
I'm not sympathetic because I offered a solution. We can take modular hydroelectric generators, raft up a few thousand of them, put them right down here in the Mississippi River off of the shores of Memphis, and you can generate enough power to supply Memphis, Little Rock, Chicago, most of the cities up there, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can supply them to New York. You can supply the stuff to Atlanta. You can supply to Raleigh, Durham. You can supply all of the energy you need generated by modular hydroelectric generators operating out of the Mississippi River. You do not need to build dams, concrete emplacements, or anything like that. And you would not impede navigation. And these clowns won't even run with it. They're designed to operate in tidal flows in Africa and Asia. They work, but you don't have to have the expense of having huge storage facilities, AKA giant batteries, to store the charges because the Mississippi runs 24/7 instead of a few hours in and a few hours out every day with the tidal flows. So we have solutions, but nobody wants to go deal with them.
Right. So let's go to the DOJ, right? Your specialty here, right? DOJ, Trump's DOJ drops Biden era lawsuit against Maryland State Police alleging discriminatory hiring. So that the title is catchy, right? Oh my God, they're gonna drop the Maryland discriminatory hiring lawsuit, but not so fast because I started reading the article.
I bet I know what you read, but go ahead.
What, you want to guess?
Yeah, they aren't going to be dealing enough with diversity when it comes to those with strange sex habits in women, right?
Yes and no. So it says one of Trump's early targets has been DEI. Back in 2024, the Biden-led Justice Department sued Maryland State Police for requiring all trooper candidates to pass a written and physical fitness test, which they claim had the effect of disqualifying Black and female applicants from the hiring process at significantly disproportionate rates. The Maryland State Police later agreed to settle the lawsuit by adopting new non-discriminatory written and physical fitness tests. One of the top MSP committed to hire 25 applicants who were previously turned down, while also promising them $2.75 million in back pay. On February 26, 2025, Trump appointed General Pam Bundy issued a directive dismissing the lawsuit. Quote, American communities deserve firefighters and police officers to be chosen for their skill and dedication to public safety, not to meet DEI quotas. Despite no evidence of intentional discrimination, only statistical disparities, the prior administration branded the aptitude tests at issue in these cases as discriminatory in an effect to advance a DEI agenda, and is sought to coerce cities into conducting DEI-based hiring in response and spending millions of dollars in taxpayer funds for payouts to previous applicants who have scored lower on the test regardless of qualifications.
You see what happened in California with these fires because they were trying to do DEI rather than being competent and capable of fighting fires. Next thing I can tell you as a judge that a whole lot of what the police do these days is in writing. A whole lot of what they used to do was in writing, writing reports. And I can tell you how badly things flop and how poor prosecutions are and what snafus occur during trials because somebody in the pipeline can't write well enough or can't articulate what's going on or doesn't have the skills to put down in writing a coherent storyline as to what they're trying to prove. It's bad. So just because you're Black doesn't mean you need to be hired, because it turns out, guess what? Black folk can do you in just as badly as white folk. And the deal is competence. So the written test is important. You have to be conversant in, you have to be skilled in, and you have to be knowledgeable in how to use the English language and write so somebody can understand what the hell you're talking about 8 months, 9 months, 3, 4, 5 years after the fact. Okay, and the other thing is you don't need DEI hires who can't pass the physical test. And that invites all sorts of violence when you've got some little bitty somebody that can't stand up to somebody big, big, big. There is a thing about physical violence being endemic and part of the job description. So if you aren't big enough to handle it, you don't need to be there.
Right, because I'm just like, you mean to tell me how can a physical test be discriminatory? If you can't pass a physical test, then you should not be hired as a police officer. You need to be fit. You need to be fit. And then on top of that, aptitude test, can you read on a simple 5th grade or 8th grade level?
That's the point. You can't read. What the hell do you think you had this opportunity to go through K through 12 for?
Right, because that's
you had the opportunity. There is no excuse for anybody not knowing how to read today.
So it says a federal judge was scheduled to approve the settlement during a March 10th hearing that will clear the way for payments. The Maryland State Police Superintendent, Colonel Roland L. Butler Jr., issued this statement, doubling down on the changes, including to physical fitness and written tests. Regardless of the ruling on the consent decree, MDSP has and will remain committed to enhancing recruitment and hiring practices to ensure fairness, transparency, and equal opportunity for all applicants. Our dedication to fostering a professional and inclusive workforce remains steadfast, and we will continue to uphold the higher standard of integrity and accountability. Moving forward, MDSP will continue developing cutting-edge, up-to-date hiring selection process, including a new written test and physical agility,
Agility.
agility test to further these efforts as we work to recruit qualified applicants to fulfill the mission of the department. So is he saying what?
He's saying, in other words, we need to have a realistic test that test for those things that will have to be displayed by a cop if they get hired. Cops spend most of their time doing what? Writing reports. People don't realize that. They sit down and they have desks and they have to write a report. When they have an arrest, we, the below sign officers, did respond to a call from dispatch to the below described address, and they have to give it. When we arrived, we observed the following, blah, 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 blah. And they have to be able to say, we saw a male black who was approximately 6 feet 3 inches tall and about 185 pounds, blah, 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 who was engaged in the following described activity. The apparent recipient was so on and so forth. This is how a good report reads. So you get these reports and like, all right, state, pass your report to the defense. They're entitled to see it. Your Honor, what does this mean? And I read it, and whoever wrote it, it's like, what the hell are they talking about? They don't know how to write. So here's a case that's about to fall apart because somebody couldn't write it up.
And so this is how I also looked at it, right? So you have a written test and you have a physical test. This is before the existence of DEI. But DEI comes into effect, and they're saying because Black people and people of color and females, they have some form of lack of education or not enough education, that they may not pass these type of aptitude tests. And if you administrate these tests to them, then that is discriminatory because they're unable to pass it because of the poor education they received growing up. So dumb down the test to where they are able to pass it and apply and get a job.
And then the same people that want them to do that are upset because they live in a high crime area, and then the criminals can't be successfully prosecuted because the cops that arrest them can't write the report up. So anybody downstream from the immediate arrest knows what the devil they were talking about.
And also, you want to blame the police department for their discriminatory hiring practices because people can't pass a test, but you don't want to blame the education system?
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking at Memphis. 75% of the police force is Black. Chief is Black. Most of the command officials are Black. And they're talking about discriminatory testing. What the hell are they talking about? Like, come on. You know, really? And then the thing about the agility test, what the problem is remember, we aren't talking about people who necessarily would be considered physically fit 15 years ago. We're talking about Lizzo types. So when you're talking about...
She lost weight, honey.
That's all right. She's still a hippo. She just got underfed or something. But anyway, we can't have that kind of thing running around in a blue uniform and you have to chase folk down. You got to be able to wrestle them to the ground. That is not going to work. They aren't even talking about a strength test. They're talking about an agility test. So what time is that? And you want to tell me that Black men and women cannot pass an agility test? And you've got all of these Black female track stars, and you've got these Black male basketball players, football players, soccer players, baseball players, martial artists, and everything. And you're talking about that's discriminatory? What in the hell? Oh, we're talking about women. See, I knew it was going to come in there, that same DEI. You saw that fat cow looking chief of police that they had out in LA. She's sitting up there talking about the physical test for a fireman are discriminatory. No, they're not. So anyway, you need to be able to do it. And what did the damn fool chief say? Well, if somebody's husband is caught in the compromised situation and can't get out, that's his fault.
He shouldn't have
What
put himself there.
is that?
Right. All right. So
That whine, cry. We're so set upon. No, I'm sorry. There are a lot of people that would love to be pilots, but they can't see well enough. There are a lot of people that would like to play football, American football, but they're not big enough. There are a lot of people that would do other stuff, but they can't because they have heart conditions, asthma conditions, all kinds of things wrong, and all kinds of things that a lot of people would like to do that they can't because they don't have the requisite physical fitness.
Mm-hmm. So what is this? God. Oh.
And I know some black cops that have master's degrees, some working on their PhDs. One minority cop I know became a lawyer while he was a cop. And then he even was a TV judge, Judge Alex. We have one woman in town. She's one of the best defense lawyers around. She put herself through law school being a cop. She used to be a real badass in a squad car, formed up one of the founders of the Black Patrolmen's Association around here. Worked with the DA's office, U.S. Attorney's office, wound up handling civil rights for the U.S. Attorney's office. Hell of a defense lawyer. Do you think she got held back because she lacked education?
Right.
No.
Yeah. All right. So President Trump reverses executive order, ends National Police Misconduct Database. So I want to play this clip. Jeez.
Before we get to anybody
President Trump has
anybody noticed that all of these big urban areas are blue, Democratic, and the Democrats depend upon black votes. So if they depend upon your votes to stay in office, then that means you have influence. So why don't we use our influence on a local level, since most of us live in urban areas, to end this particular problem that once again, somebody's depending upon something or somebody else to do it for them.
Yeah.
of the first nationwide database that tracks misconduct by federal police officers. The move fulfills a campaign promise to reverse police reforms that came out of the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests. The National News Desk, Jeff Harris, joins us. And Jeff, I know this database was established back in 2022 following an executive order from President Biden. Tell us more about how it was used.
So the creation of the National Law Enforcement Accountability Database, Dee Dee, required that all federal law enforcement agencies screen personnel, all of them. Now, the objective, prevent officers with a history of abuse from moving in between departments. David Thomas has decades of experience working in law enforcement. He's retired now, but says he believes the national database tracking misconduct by federal police officers should be kept running.
You're just letting one bad apple move from one agency to the next.
The Justice Department confirming to the Washington Post this week the database has been shut down by President Trump. The White House responding via email to the Post story online, writing in part, quote, President Trump believes in an appropriate balance of accountability without compromising law enforcement's ability to do its job of fighting crime and keeping communities safe.
His history shows that he'll do everything to protect law enforcement.
Patrick Oliver, a retired police chief and criminal justice professor, tells us databases like these can be extremely useful.
A national database on law enforcement officers who have been either decertified or convicted of crimes can be helpful in police hiring for those law enforcement agencies hiring people from out of state.
But the White House says President Trump rescinded the order on day one because, quote, he is committed to giving our brave men and women of law enforcement the tools they need to stop crime. Now, since the database launched in 2023, 90 executive branch agencies with law enforcement officers in them provided thousands of disciplinary records. Now, the database includes nearly 150,000 federal officers and also agents.
Could we stop here?
Oh, that was it.
Okay. How many of us get busted by federal officers? How many get the U.S. Marshals after them? How many get the FBI after them? How many get the Federal Forestry Service agents after them? How many of them get IRS agents after them? You're talking about local police. These folk are running around in ignorance, thinking that they're talking about blocking and assimilating records on misconduct by the police they deal with. These are federal law enforcement officials. Very few contacts between federal law enforcement and ordinary run-of-the-mill citizens happen. So exactly who are they talking about? And out of 360 million, 410 million now that Biden has let in 50 to 60 million illegals, 410 million people now in the country is not going to be visibly impacted by 150,000. It's quite a few zeros after the decimal before this gets to a real number. So what are we talking about? This is just a whole lot of money being spent by an agency with some people with a vested interest in maintaining the sinecure as a bureaucrat. So we get nothing out of it, and the money can be put to much better usage. By the way, the money saved, the Biden administration wasn't going to do anything with it. Their friends are still hollering about it. But what is it? The Trump administration is talking about everybody gets a $5,000 refund check because they found the surplus money in the budget that was not being properly spent on things that benefit the system. So these savings could come back to us, but the rhino Republicans and the Democrats don't want that to happen. Interesting.
Now, maybe one of the reasons why he did that is also the police unions did endorse him during the campaign. And however, again, like you're saying, this is just for federal police officers, not the state. That's up to the state to have their own database.
Yeah.
Which they should, but that's up to the state. He can only control federal police officers.
When's the last time you got stopped by a federal agent?
Yeah, where are they though? What are they? When did
Are they talking about somebody has misconduct at the airports with TSA?
Okay.
ICE?
Or state or the National Guard?
No, that's not National Guard. These are federal law enforcement. They work for the executive agency for the president. So are we talking about ICE agents, TSA agents, FBI, IRS, Secret Service? Or are we talking about what? We talking about U.S. Marshals? Are they going around like they did in the 19th century and busting folk where we need to keep special records on them because they've been brutalizing people? I mean, think about it.
True. That's what I'm saying. They take these things that he's doing and smack a sensational headline and people just run with it. They don't understand it's a separation of state and federal government.
Are they talking about federal parole officers? No, because there's no more federal parole. So what exactly are they talking about?
Because he's already firing all of the IRS armed agents. So.
Yeah, they should. That's the mistake they made with the FBI when J. Edgar Hoover blackmailed them into getting armed. Mm-hmm. We did not need the FBI. We could have just slightly expanded the U.S. Marshal's office and left the FBI as an investigative service like we need to leave the IRS.
So another thing on Trump, Trump tells governors to enact death penalty for drug dealers. So President Donald Trump, in a sometimes tense meeting, when was this? This was back in February. He was at the nation's governors, pressed them to enact the death penalty for drug dealers and issue a threat to Maine's Democrat chief executive over her state's law protecting transgender people from discrimination. Trump, at the normally styled annual White House get together with bipartisan members of the National Governors Association at their winter. You want to mute up when you cough?
Well, why? You can see me. Am I getting that loud? Sorry.
Yeah, but I think by the time you get to your mute button, the cough is gone.
Yes.
Where was I? Okay, during the National Governors Association at their winter meeting, also talked about federal government support of school choice and end to Russia's war in Ukraine and recent terrorist assassination of Venezuelans gang and petition 25% tariffs. Trump said he plans to start the tariffs April 2nd because he doesn't want to issue them on April Fool's Day. It's going to cost a lot of money to wait one day. Let me get down to, Trump said he designated the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua or whatever as terrorists and cited as his reasoning about the gang taking over the apartment complex in Colorado. Where is it? I'm trying to get to the point to where.
Why would anybody object to a gang being declared terrorist?
I don't know.
A Venezuelan foreign gang that has invaded the United States, that's here illegally conducting crimes, extortion.
Oh, it says death penalty. South Carolina's
terrorizing the locals. What did they call that? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Oh my God. You can't hear me.
Hold on.
Testing. Okay. He has to go out and come back in. Oh, honey, we're about to get to the Miami segment. However, guys, can you please press the like button, thumbs up, and share this video on all your social media outlets. Please hit the like button, guys. The show's doing very well tonight. So, and I would like for the numbers to grow. I do want to get to 1,000 likes. So please hit the like button. Yes. And I'm halfway reaching the goal. Halfway. We have 5 out of 10. And I am going to answer everyone's super chats. And I always do towards the end of the show. So please hit the like button and give the judge a second to come back in because he has to go out and come back because he couldn't hear. But he'll come back up shortly. Let me make sure that my sound is good. Okay, yes. Yeah, so share. That was me calling. No, it wasn't. No, it was not. A couple of super chats. Thank you, Halamel. Count me in for the goal. Thank you so much. Barb, I hope you get to your goal. Love you, Dana. Love you too, Barb. Red Bunny, thank you for answering my Fanny question. You're welcome. And yes, we will be about to get into the Mammy segment. So we're going to talk about Stacy, Jasmine, and sprinkle in some Fanny as soon as the judge gets back. Yeah. Let's see. Just give him a sec. You know what I also want to mention? That Boston, Massachusetts mayor. So it was a knife welding attacker, and he tried to kill multiple people in Boston. This was about 2 days ago. And it was an off-duty police officer who stopped him, and he ended up killing the attacker. The police officer ended up killing the knife wielding attacker who was trying to kill people, right? So the police officer is essentially a hero. But the mayor of Boston, she gave a press conference that night and she wanted to give condolences to the knife wielding criminal, but not the police officer that was protecting the people who he was chasing. That's crazy. And so we know Boston is a sanctuary city. They're harboring illegals. She was called to um to Washington D.C. to address Congress. And Wednesday, and I do want to Wednesday I will be doing a live show Wednesday in the morning because the mayor of Chicago, Mayor Brandon Johnson, honey, he has to face the music. He will be in DC in front of Congress Wednesday morning. And I'm there for it. Ooh. Hot. All right. Let me check some. Where are you? Where are you? He's probably having a problem coming back on. Give me a second. 1 second.
Hello.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
All right. Is somebody calling you or is just your connection?
I have no idea. I didn't get a call in, but maybe my connection.
Oh. All right. Well, okay, so the death penalty. So North Carolina McMaster said that a problem his state is seeing is fentanyl being brought in through mail packages from China. Trump said that he had previous conversation with China President Xi Jinping about enacting death penalty for drug dealers in China. If you notice that every country that has the death penalty has no drug problem. Trump, who has often advocated for the death penalty, including for drug dealers, then pressed the states to take action. Your states have the right to go death penalty also for drug dealers, but only do that if you want to get rid of drugs. South Carolina is a death penalty state, and attorneys for a death row inmate convicted of different types of crime, Brad Seagram said Friday he has selected the firing squad for his scheduled execution, which would be the first in South Carolina. I didn't know they even offer that.
Yeah, they do. I think there's it might be Arizona or Nevada, something like that, that has the firing squad as an option too.
It says that he was sentenced to death in 2002 for beating his ex-girlfriend's parents to death with a baseball bat at their Greenville County home, then attempting to kidnap their daughter. Trump said that the federal government plans to roll out anti-drug campaign that shows the brutal impact of drugs on the body. He said the advertisements will be using drugs to destroy your skin. It destroys your teeth. It destroys your brain. It destroys everything, whatever.
Well, there is a big debate currently on whether or not all drug usage, drug dealing should be treated as a minor nonviolent offense. Supposedly it cuts back on crime. But I know that cocaine trafficking is big money business. And I had at least 6, 7, or 8, or 9, or 10 first degree murder cases in my court where the killings were contract killings behind crack cocaine or coke. So it seems that coke dealers get treated differently depending upon their circumstances. and what the mythology is behind their cases rather than the reality of how much they were dealing with or how many homicides they caused or planned and plotted and how much money they were making.
So would you think that that's a good idea? Let's just say a cartel drug dealer. Do you think they should get the death penalty?
Well, you might understand how many people die. Okay, let's say that from 1988, 89 to about 92, 93, most of the crack babies in the Southeast United States, most of the crackheads could be attributable to one or two or three people. Most of the drug flow to the same three people, most of the money going back, which was in the billions of dollars, and the literal tons of the drugs involved were going through one or two or three people. Wouldn't you assume that if they've taken out contracts and caused quite a number of intentional homicides and then drug overdose homicides and then ruined lives by crack babies, that somewhere in there, these kingpin or queenpin individuals might have deserved a very harsh punishment in light of all of the lives that their activities cost? See, this isn't like marijuana. Marijuana is like alcohol. I mean, you can drink yourself to death. You can smoke yourself to death with nicotine and tobacco, but it takes a while. This is quick death. This is people becoming dysfunctional, succumbing to their own suicidal urges by socially acceptable suicide. And a lot of people die either directly or indirectly, and a lot of lives are messed up, and a lot of other folk die as a collateral consequence over the 15, 20, 25 years impacted person's life. So it is something of consequences. And they're what I call vampire drugs, which, in other words, it's not a matter of just infecting yourself. It's like Dracula goes and bites somebody, and the vampire wakes up and has to bite somebody because of the thirst for blood. Well, it's like some drugs are like that. They get bitten and they have to go bite somebody, and that spreads. So, I mean, it's some drugs are not the same as others. They're not just recreational drugs. They are drugs that are ordinarily prescribed or appropriate when somebody is in the most extreme pain as a result of burns, cancer, an operation, wounds, injuries, that kind of thing. So Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 drugs are something that are real nasty. So what do we do about people who engage in the trade of those things and all of the thousands of lives that are impacted? So, I mean,
And you're not against the death penalty.
I have imposed it. So I've done it. I mean, I don't think it's effective in homicides. Believe it or not, it actually is an incentive to some people to commit murder. They want to die. So if you want to read it, read Mario Puzo's book, The Godfather. There's a discussion in there where Don Corleone is talking to his son, Michael, and explaining about Luca Brasi. And he says, you need to find yourself one. Luca hates his own guts, but he's scared to put the gun to his head and kill himself. So he'll go mess with anybody I tell him to mess with, kill anybody I tell him to kill with, hoping he can provoke somebody to do him the favor of taking his own miserable life. And because I'm the only one, this is what the old Don was telling his son, Michael, that he does not want to be the one that kills him. He'll do anything for me. And he won't squeal, because if he gets the death penalty, that's giving him exactly what he wants.
All right. So I created a new segment for the show. It's called the Mammy segment. Yes.
Who are we putting in first?
Okay.
First honoree.
The first honoree is Jasmine Crockett.
Crockett. JG. How fitting, my dear.
JC. Crockett.
Fitting. JC.
So she is calling Trump an enemy to the United States. I'm going to play this clip.
And as far as I'm concerned, he is an enemy to the United States. He swore an oath just like the rest of us. But right now, when you are literally putting us at risk, all because of what? Because you want to convince your followers that you should be a dictator too, that you should never leave the White House because you don't believe that elections should take place. I don't really understand what is going on, and I don't know what it's going to take to get people to wake up. We are not living in a safe country when we decide that.
Stop a second. When did Trump ever say he has an intention of being dictator for life and never leaving the White House? Did he ever say that? No. So she's lying. She's part of this fascist little cabal here. Next thing is the majority of the country seems to side with him. Meanwhile, it's now coming out the fascist things that they were trying to do. Oh, misinformation, false information. We must restrict it. Restriction of free speech. We must take search and seizure as a relative thing because sometimes we must. Okay, freedom of speech shall not be absolute. Oh, what is the other one? The Fifth Amendment. Due process of law is so inconvenient. So what exactly is this fool talking about except running her ignorant young mouth off? She's a fool. Now, if you want to see why a lot of people support Donald Trump, you're looking at one of them. So why does her particular verbiage direct itself not toward, I may disagree with what you're saying, but I'll defend your right to say it. She's trying to restrict it, which is fascism. Those are quotation marks.
All right, I'm going to finish playing it.
That we are going to weaken our national security by getting rid of those that are watching our nuclear stockpile, by giving everything over to a private friend known as Elon Musk. We are getting rid of all of the inspector generals. And so there's literally a lack of checks and balances all around us. And then we have
Second, fact check. That is a lie. Nobody's getting rid of the inspector generals. That's just a flat out lie, but it's her right to say it. But I'm pointing that out because the lie told long enough, loud enough can get anybody to believe it, including the liar. And I guess this liar believes it. So anyway, if she does, right now it's because of her ignorance, which says, look at it, watch it. It's huge. Name the program or the executive order to get rid of the inspector generals as a category rather than surplus. So, okay, fine. Now, let's go. Fact check. Hello?
I'm here. Give me a sec.
You muted yourself.
We have somebody who's sending his vice president out to offend our allies in Europe.
She wants to support this Nazi, Zelynsky. So what is she talking about, offending our allies in Europe? Her hench bitch, oh, excuse me, did I say that? The hyena witch that they sent over there to insult everybody with a drunken word salad is supposed to be exemplary? No, it's not.
So here's another clip. She's talking about, I guess, Musk and
as it relates to X, he has never made a profit since he bought X. In fact, the value of X is 75% lower than it has ever been. So if I am going to go look for somebody to run a business, I'm going to look for someone who is going to run one successfully. And before people start screaming and yelling about, well, he's a billionaire. Yeah, when you know the right people and they'll just give you money, then you can become a billionaire too.
Stop.
And maybe one day all of us will have that kind of access. But until then.
That is so ultimately stupid and ignorant. And then she's forgetting he ran PayPal. I bet she uses it. Then, of course, there's Tesla. And I bet a whole lot of people are driving these Teslas. In fact, I see a lot of them on the roadway. There is the most powerful rocket ever made by man that, by the way, can come back and land like old time 1950 sci-fi spaceships on the tail. The Defense Department wants him to do 20 exploratory launches for upgrading their ICBMs. He's the one that's got Starship that can carry 200 people to the moon or Mars. Oh, and he's setting up a plant right here in Memphis, 85,000 square feet, to make the most advanced AI computers in the world. So, okay, all of this is fake. So she's just an ignorant flim-flam mammy. Oh, and she must be a very exceptional person when it comes to the qualification. Remember what I said? They first become successful bed wenches and then they get made mammies. So she must have been a very successful bed wench for somebody.
For her white donors, you know.
Oh,
George Soros.
Soros brought him another little wenchlet mammy, like
Yeah.
he did Kamala.
She had some Silicon Valley tech people when she was first running cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
And
naturally.
Mhm.
So bought him another little mammy witch.
Well, there are more mammies, and they don't always have to be black. So I was just briefly, when you was reconnecting, I was talking about this Boston mayor. So it says here, Mayor Michelle Wu just went on television offering condolences to the victims of the attacker. It was a knife wielding attacker who tried to kill multiple people in Boston, but an off-duty police officer, who's the hero, prevented that from happening and ended up killing the attacker. She goes on a press conference, and I'm about to play this clip, giving her condolences to the criminal.
My condolences and all of our thoughts are with the family of the individual whose life has been lost.
Of the individual whose life has been lost. That was the man who was trying to actually kill innocent people.
Okay, what you expect? The mammies are generally stupid. It's
Well, okay, and so here.
All right, I mean, let's put it this way.
This is the mammy segment. We have another mammy here.
Wait a minute. It would be funny if this was Saturday Night Live. Unfortunately, it's not.
Okay.
SNL.
So here's AOC, because you know she got in trouble.
AOC is another idiot.
She got in trouble for hosting some type of Zoom meeting to educate illegals on how to evade ICE.
Title 8.
So this is
1324 United States criminal codes. That's a violation to do that. That is a conspiracy amongst other things, and it carries, I think, in her situation, a 10-year cap.
Well, they are investigating her. They are. Congress is.
They ought to lock her dumb ass up for violence.
You had a recent dispute, if that's the right word, with Tom Homan, the president's Homeland Security czar, so-called. You held an online forum, a Know Your Rights forum, that he didn't like. What were you doing? What was your goal as you saw it?
My job is to educate and act as a liaison of critical information to my constituents. And I was informing all of my constituents of their constitutional protections, and in particular, their constitutional protections against illegal search and seizure in the United States.
Illegal search.
Homan was upset, I suppose, because he felt that you were giving advice to people who were here illegally. Were you?
I was giving advice to all of my constituents.
Advice, she said it, unauthorized practice of law. She didn't just give advisement as to what she thought the law was. That's her First Amendment privilege, but she was trying to give them advice as to what to do. That constitutes aiding and abetting, advocating the violation of the law. Section 8.
He said he was going.
Excuse me. Chapter 8, Section 1324 of the United States Criminal Codes.
To report you, or even that he did reach out to the Department of Justice. Have you heard from the Department of Justice?
I have not, and I intend on reaching out to the Department of Justice to inquire.
Really? What would your question be for the Department of Justice?
Well, there is a member of the Trump administration who is threatening and seeks to open an inquiry. And are you going to do it?
What would you learn? What do you hope to learn from that exchange?
I think it's important to know where this administration stands and if they intend on using political intimidation to silence their critics.
Oh, wasn't this the heifer that was so enthused about the 34 felony convictions coming out of New York with Bragg? Oh, yes. It's interesting how the goose doth thrash when the sauce gets applied.
You heard her last part, and that's the problem I have, because your job is to represent your constituents in this nation, not to be an adversary to who's in the White House.
Well, you can be an adversary to who's in the White House. That's your business. That's First Amendment. However,
for a sitting congressperson?
But however, especially congressional representatives, they can say anything they want to, as long as it's not advocating the violation of the law. Now, that becomes another thing. She's advocating violation of the law. But here's the thing. Under the Constitution, if she said it during debate or in the House or on the way to and from the House, she's immune. But she didn't say it in any of those conditions. She said it when she was static, holding something that had nothing to do with being in transit from district to House or on the floor. So while we whoopee, she broke the law.
So should she go to the DOJ herself, or should she just not say anything?
Well, she needs to keep her mouth shut when she starts saying stuff like, you need to go break the law. Here's how you can defeat ICE. Here's how you can do what? Hide the fugitive, protect the fugitive from apprehension, detention. You can house the fugitive, feed the fugitive, shelter the fugitive. You can harbor the fugitive. All of those are criminal offenses. And I used to have some clients way back when that I defended on the charge of harboring a federal fugitive.
All right, so let's get to the number one mammy of the night of tonight.
Oh, really?
Yes. Stacy Abrams. So Stacy, so the Georgia Senate panel who is probing Fulton DA, now turns its focus to Stacey Abrams and the new Georgia project. So it says Georgia lawmakers are digging into the new Georgia project after it admitted to 16 campaign finance violations and paid a $300,000 fine. Republicans also want.
By the way, that expression of guilt is admissible.
So Republicans also want answers about its ties to a $2 billion Biden-era climate fund. Stacey Abrams, who worked with the group, calls the investigation a political hit job.
And that she would have expertise. Didn't she most recently participate in one of those when it came to trying to get Trump et al. Down there in Fulton County with her ignoramus colleague, Fannie Willis?
So it says the chairman of special Senate committee set up to probe the Fulton County prosecution of Donald Trump's attempts to overturn 2020 election laws has turned his attention to former Democrat gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams, whose ties to a voter registration nonprofit recently resulted in one of the largest campaign ethic fines levied by the state. So when they paid the fine, that's when the Georgia committee said, we need to investigate her.
Well, they entered the concession of guilt. Yes, of course, it's the state's obligation. Investigate the criminal activity, big dummies.
Athens Republican Senator Bill Cowsert on Friday filed Senate Resolution 292 which would allow the Senate Special Committee on Investigations to open a probe into Abrams' founded New Georgia's project following January 15th settlement and the long-running campaign ethic case. Last month, the group and affiliated New Georgia's Project Action Fund signed a settlement agreement in a 2019 case alleging illegal campaign contributions to Abrams' 2018 gubernatorial campaign and other Democrats running for statewide office that year, which will include Warnock. So they agreed to pay $300,000 as part of the State Ethics Commission settlement agreement for committing 16 campaign finance violations, including failing to register as an independent committee and not disclosing $4.2 million in contributions and $3.2 million in expenditures.
Ask me what I'm doing.
Oh, I don't see. I was reading. Oh, what are you
playing the violin?
So yeah,
Music.
you need water. So what's gonna happen? Where are we going with this? What
that violin will be playing that music, you know.
The Senate resolution will also allow the committee to investigate $2 billion grant awarded in 2024 to an environmental organization, which ties to Abrams. $2 billion? Listen, I need a.
Why do you think that everything's falling apart? Why do you think everything's been falling apart recently where there's no money? That's because the money is being sidetracked, misappropriated, stolen by those who have assumed authority. And I don't know why they don't have it in their hearts and souls to say, hey, it is our turn to do it right, to do it the way it's supposed to be done. They say it's our turn to go steal to get the gravy. Everybody else is doing it. We might as well do it. So it's like, okay, why do we need you in there to steal the money that's keeping us from getting the children educated, from getting the streets cleaned up, from having the wherewithal to put some of the thugs in rehab and training programs, to bring in and finance and work with industry and such like? What is it? Why don't we have that? Oh, you're stealing the money. Okay, there was $7.5 million in Fulton County that was supposed to go to catching up prosecutions, because if somebody's been in jail and they haven't been indicted in 45 days under Georgia law, they're supposed to cut them loose. So they have all these people that need habeas corpuses filed on their behalf because they've been kept in there longer than 45 days with no indictment. But the $7.5 million disappeared. There was $2 million to catch up on sex crimes prosecutions, but that seems to have disappeared. And there's $500,000 that was appropriated for juvenile crime millions. Oh, that's $10 million that seems to have disappeared, and somebody doesn't think they have to account for it. And now we've got several billion for this. Oh,
exactly.
My goodness.
So when you have these types of investigations, they're going to ask for an expense sheet, like where was this money allocated out to, correct?
Oh, they want a spreadsheet. Where'd it go? Who got it? Where did it go? And what for? And when?
So I wonder if Stacey Abrams is going to try and fight a subpoena when they subpoena her ass.
Well, see what they can do if they issue a subpoena and she doesn't reply. Under Georgia law, one of their remedies, since the Georgia legislature is now in full session, is to detail the sergeant at arms to physically arrest her and bring her forth, so they can say, put them behind your back. Well.
Right. The difference between Stacey Abrams and Fannie Willis, Fannie Willis is a DA, so they can't just go in and arrest a DA.
Yes, they can.
Well, because she kept, well,
See, that's her. See, that's what I'm talking about. You're the DA and you don't realize one of the 3 remedies that the Georgia state legislature has is simply ordering their sergeant at arms to physically arrest your fool self and
they
bring.
didn't. Well, after the first subpoena and she ignored it, they didn't arrest her. But then
No. But see, the legislative body wasn't in session. So under Georgia law, they'd have to go through a circuit court. Now, they just said, we'll wait until the legislature comes back in session and then do it that way. So they have 3 remedies: arrest by the sergeant at arms, going through a circuit court, or the legislature cutting off any further money to the district involved, which is Fulton County, and also filing an independent action to get the money back from the county.
So
and then the Supreme Court could appoint a special prosecutor to go look at it.
So can Stacey Abrams do what Fannie Willis tried to do as far as what do you call it?
She declined to honor the subpoena, but
Yeah.
she didn't get it quashed. What the circuit court ruled when she did file for it said it's too late. You already dishonored it. It's up to the state legislature as to what remedy they choose to take against you. If they decide to take a remedy, you can apply again, but we can't tell you what we're going to do.
And if you get subpoena, you might as well just show up.
Yeah, because it's clear. It's tax money. The state legislature appropriated the tax money to you specifically for a specific purpose. Under just about everybody's law, the legislative body is entitled to inquire what happened to the money.
Mm-hmm.
And all this little weak thing about ongoing investigation, if there's an ongoing investigation of a specific crime, they can redact the names out of it. But where'd the money go? So who exactly does the money go to relative to anybody that needs to be kept secret? If there are specific individuals, the problem is the $10 million was not earmarked for fighting organized crime. 500,000 for juveniles, 2,500,000 for 2 million, for catching up on sex crimes prosecutions where there are known victims, and 7.5 million for catching up on past due felonies. So just exactly what is she talking about when it comes to ongoing prosecution? She's stalling. She had hoped that Hyena Harris would get to office and she had escaped, but it didn't work out that way because the American people said, oh, that ain't what's happening.
And even if they know, if it's, let's say it's a Republican person in office that's committing crimes or taking money they're not supposed to, you don't have the power in the state of Georgia or in DC to open up an investigation on them because your side lost, basically.
Oh, by the way, there's one other category of federal cop that the records might be on, the DC police. So how many of us live in Washington, D.C., got busted by the D.C. cops? Remember what we were talking about earlier?
Mm-mm.
Remember the thing with the records on the brutality was supposed to be on federal cops? And we were
yes. Yeah,
I forgot about the D.C. police. They're the only significant police department that's in that.
Oh, okay.
It just dawned on me. D.C. police. Let me mention
That's
that.
right, because they're not a state. Yeah.
Yeah, District of Columbia. By the way, they don't need to get to vote. If you want them to vote, just reseed them back to Maryland so they can vote in Maryland and have congressional and senatorial representation. And you can keep the Capitol Mall, a small area, as the district. So,
yeah. Okay, so I'm almost at 1,000 likes, guys. I need over 30, 70, over 70 likes. And my goal, I'm 4 super chats before the goal. So I'm going to get to some of the super chats now, and then we'll get into pop culture, right? Amber Dawn says, a main part of JD's message went over folks' head. Forced mobilization on front lines. Zelynsky is literally kidnapping his male citizens, walking their dogs at home to force them to go fight on the front lines. Yeah, I saw a video of that
It's
earlier.
called impressment, not draft, but impressment. Impressment has been legitimated by 1,000 worth of years of staffing naval forces. You got Shanghai, means sent to Shanghai. Well, you know what that means? You got drunk in a pub and you were walking down the street and a press gang from a Royal Navy ship jumped you, beat you across the head, knocked you out, and you woke up a day later on board a warship as it was out to sea under sail, and you got impressed. The United States Navy used to do the same thing until they outlawed it. When you needed seamen, you'd go boom, waylay them. They'd wake up on board a warship the next day in irons, and they'd be let out and integrated into the ship's company. And if they got out of hand, they'd get lashes or walk the plank.
Right.
Get home.
Thank you, Asanta, for the super chat. Thank you, 100 Black. He's a member for over 30 months. Good evening, Dana Doll, and Judge Barbecue Brown. I get another milestone super chat anyways. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And thank you, Pam. Ronnie says, are illegal immigrants constituents?
No.
No, but she's talking about AOC's.
No, they're not, because they shouldn't be here. They can't vote, so they're not a constituents. They are fugitives from American justice. They should be taken into custody, and they should be deported or detained in a safe facility until their circumstances can be determined, and then deported or imprisoned, put to hard labor. You can do that. I mean, there's 50 million of them. So, I mean, a good percentage of them would probably switch to that. There are some roads that need to be built in the wilderness, some cleanups that need to be done. And I mean, you know, that's what they do any place else if they caught you sneaking across the border. You don't think if you got caught sneaking into Korea that they would just put you up in a hotel?
But see, AOC is looking at them as her constituents. Why? Because again, if Kamala Harris became president, they would have fast-tracked all those illegals to be citizens or residents.
Date of the designated entry point, which would have been January 21st, 2021, they would be automatically citizens without taking a course, passing a test like regular people have to do. And they would have, as refugees and been granted political asylum, they would be citizens the year before the midterm elections. That would be 2026. Midterm elections will be occurring in 2027.
Right. And that's why they had the borders open, because come on into these sanctuary cities, which is to stronghold the blue wall and create other blue districts in other states or what have you. Come on in, because the more bodies we have in our district, the more representation. That means we get to send to Congress, and we can control the House and the Senate, and then we could fast track these people to be citizens, and they're going to vote Democrat for as long.
And the more money we can safely steal and be put back in place so we can steal it and protect our buddies who are stealing and giving us our cut.
Right.
Yeah, the racket, that's organized crime. RICO, for real. It's interesting that Georgia thought that the Trump people were engaged in RICO activity when it actually is the people that were after the Trump folk that were engaged in organized crime. This is organized crime. It's so deep and so treacherous that any place else besides the United States, it would be treason, and somebody would be subject to being put on a wall and propping it up before they fell to the ground after the loud noises. Now, in other words, the firing squad. So,
all right,
I find that interesting.
So I want to get into Do you need a minute?
No, I'm okay.
Yeah, because you know what? You're getting over a cold.
Yeah. That's from the last appearance I did down in Atlanta. People get up in your face. Not everybody, but a few. They want to act like they've known you 10 years. It's like, hey, can you not do that? And you're spraying spittle all over my face.
Spittle.
Yeah, and it's like, please, by the way, I love people. I don't mind taking pictures, but don't get all up in my face and get to blowing your breath in my face. Please, I can only hold my breath so long.
Right.
Now, this is your guy here. Doesn't he have
Well, he's not my guy.
But doesn't he have a brother?
Yes, he has a brother, but this is Andrew Tate. The brother is, you don't see the brother as much. The brother's a little bit more quiet at home, but they are a duo together. So he's back on American soil. He did his first interview with PBD. It went viral today, the interview. It was a good interview. It was very long.
So when are they going to take him into custody?
He goes back to Romania. He was found, I think, not guilty, but he goes back to Romania in March.
I'm talking about Romania. Also, there might be a few little problems here in the United States. So when are they going to take him into custody here?
I didn't hear about that.
Oh, anyway, we'll see.
Okay, so this is a clip. I took this clip. I saved this part of this clip from the interview, and this is Andrew Tate talking about white people going extinct and being replaced in their nations. So it's about 4 minutes and 50 seconds.
I'm one of the champions of this, even though the hardcore racists on Twitter hate me because they call me mulatto and mixed race and all these things. I don't care. I'm going to champion for it anyway. Only white people are not allowed to love themselves, love their race, and love their countries. Everyone else is. White people are the only ones who could do it. If anyone else flies a flag or says we're from wherever, or we're this color, or we're this religion, we want it, it's fine. When white people do it, it's instantly demonized. White people are the only people who are expected to give up their lands. And it's actually quite, and I say this as a half white man, half black man, it's very obvious. It's very obvious for me to see. And the European countries, you could argue that America was founded multiracially. You could argue that. But the British people are a type of people. They're an ethnicity. They're a type of people from one place and one part of the earth. And once they lose it, they have nowhere else to go. That's all they have. And they're being replaced in real time. And their leader, Keir Starmer, is letting it happen. And if you talk about it, you go to jail. All of this is happening right now. And unless the men do something and replace him with somebody who cares, they're going to be replaced. That's the bottom line of it. I can then argue, I can move on to the point that, we all get what we deserve in this life and that the strong destroy the weak. We could argue that point. I could sit here and say, well, white people, if you get replaced, you deserve it because you didn't do anything about it. I could make that argument, but that doesn't mean it's not happening. White people are being replaced in their host nations. That's obvious for me to see. I don't think anyone can argue against that point. People try.
But
people
that's also a fair argument, though.
No, it's a very fair argument, but that upsets people. Or they deny it's happening. But it is happening. White people are going extinct.
Yep.
You are going extinct. And then when you tell people this, they have lots of different answers to it. But nationalism is feared when white people band together. And then, you can argue, this actually ties back into something that's very interesting. The reason they fear nationalism when white people get banded together is because they apply it to World War II. They say, well, white nationalists do what Hitler did because he was a white nationalist. So they say that when white people get together and are nationalistic, it's like the Nazis. When other people get together and they're nationalistic, it's not. Is this actually true? Is this the largest psyop in history? I mean, World War II has had such a profound effect on our culture up until this point now. World War II is the basis for all good and bad in the entire world. If I say to you, name the worst person in history, you'll probably say Hitler. You won't say Stalin, who killed more because he was on our team.
Or Mao.
Or Mao, who killed more. Now, I'm not sitting here sticking up for Hitler. I'm just saying that World War II has shaped the modern world. And they use it as an emotional trigger to prevent white people from sticking up for themselves. Guess what I saw in the car on the way here? A terror attack in Germany. A car attack. You see it?
Yep, this morning.
A Muslim ran over a bunch of white people in Germany this morning. But the white people in Germany can't band together to fight against it because then they are what?
Racist.
Nazis.
Yep.
Nazis.
Yep, for sure.
So they use World War II. Let me ask you guys a question. If they use World War II to subvert white nationalism to the point of extinction, wouldn't it be truly treasonous if the story of World War II wasn't even true? What if there's another story to World War II? Is it true, the story that we know? the version of events that we know. Hitler's just crazy and he just lost his mind. I'm asking questions because in my world, I understood that victors write history. Winners write history. Winners are always the good guys. The loser was always the bad guy. Loser had no point of view at all. The winner had all the right thing and they were doing all the right things. So I'm just asking you, if this war is what's shaping the modern world and it is bringing on the ideology which is going to lead to the extinction of the white race, isn't it important we find out if the story we're told is even true? Let me apply this to modern time. If you listen to the media and the story, they tell you Putin's crazy. Putin's nuts and he's lost his mind and he has no point of view at all and he has no reason to invade Ukraine. There's no possible reason. If you research, you'll understand he actually has a pretty good argument. I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm saying that he has his beliefs. We have our beliefs, some right, some wrong. There's no such thing as black and white. There are different varying shades of gray in every single conflict. But the Hitler story, the World War II story is black-white because that's how the winners want to write it. And that's how it always goes when the war is over. And the story of Russia-Ukraine is black-white. Ukraine's innocent, we're innocent, Russia's nuts. But if you actually analyze things and understand them really, you'll see it's not that way. So this is a very interesting thought experiment. And that's what I'm doing before the media attacks me. I'm not advocating for anything. I'm not saying anything. This is a thought experiment. If one particular ideology is shaping society to the point where an entire race will go extinct, shouldn't we understand that period of history intimately? Yes or no? I would argue yes. And if that's the case, perhaps when we understand it better, perhaps white people might save themselves. Perhaps.
So what are your thoughts on that?
He sounds like a younger Larry Elders. I mean, he's got some points. So, I mean, you know, it is what it is. I've been on that show too.
I know.
My autograph is just to his, well, anyway, never mind.
That only applies to white people. And I'm one of the champions of this, even though the hardcore racists on Twitter hate me because they call me mulatto and mixed. You are going.
Yeah, that's the same thing. So, yeah, so what are your thoughts about him saying white people are being replaced?
Well, that's a popular position by some white people right now. And it's a fond hope by some of the so-called woke black folks. So, you know, it depends on where in the world you are when you want to espouse that. And the other thing is, there is a thing out there that the world reached its maximum rate of repopulation some years ago, and it's on a downhill trend. And in 10,000 years, humans will be extinct because there won't be any humans. Male sperm counts are down all over the world for some unknown reason. And the birth rates are dropping. So that's part of that dialogue that goes in there. So why are the birth rates dropping?
Well, here's the thing, though, because, you know, is this a case of, you know, when they say a white people population decreasing, well, is this a case of chickens coming home to roost? Because how many populations how many other populations of different ethnicities or cultures or races did the white population exterminate?
Well, the point is, we have no large-scale control mechanisms but disease, and we're getting a handle on that slowly, ever accelerating fashion, but surely. And the only other population we have is basically we go to war and we kill ourselves off on a regular basis and knock down the population. Some people don't get it because they aren't aware of it. But when I left Los Angeles 50-some years ago, they had 1.5 million population. Now, what do they have? 13.8 million people in LA County. And the differences are very noticeable if you've been through where you had elbow room. You can move around and about without bumping into somebody, without everything being hyper crowded. Mm-hmm. And we're getting to the point where the ability of the planet to carry population is getting taxed. Now, somewhere along the line, we're going to have 10 billion people inside of a few decades. And 10 billion people is a lot of organisms when they're the size of humans. There is nothing else on the planet our size that is that numerous. And we are at the carrying capacity. Of course, we've got science and technology, but we also have sacred cows. The sacred cow is you've got land to grow vegetable protein and food on it, but you don't because you want to feed cows and they need the pasture land, but nobody can eat the cows because they're sacred. So you starve so you can raise cows that you can pray to, so you can starve a little bit more, and you put yourself in the situation because there's all that tasty.
Where are we going with the cows?
What's that?
Where are we going with this
I'm
story?
talking about it's a sacred cow thing. In other words, we may have the science and technology to do something, but because of our belief systems, we can't do it. Like India has all of this arable land to grow legumes.
Wait, one second. Are you going to correlate that with white people going extinct?
Yeah, in other words, right now, some people say we don't have enough people. We need more. So white people aren't reproducing. Their numbers are dropping. Well, China went through trying to eliminate 300 million to 500 million people over a 30-year period, and they succeeded because they were too crowded. So maybe white people are doing something smart, which is we have too many people. So we need to cut back.
He's saying that white people are being extinct.
They're not going extinct because the problem is what is a white person? If you DNA'd most Anglo-Americans, you'd find they had on average about 18 to 20% black genetics from Africa.
So here's the thing, they're not going extinct. So his analogy or his theory is off and incorrect. However, are white people losing power? So maybe
that may be, but here's the thing. When you have an old feudal system, you have all of these serfs and peasants living on the land, right? But they belong to the land, and there were a few lords, men at arms, barons, dukes, earls, kings, etc., princes, and they had men at arms, and they were armed up real well, and a very few people ran the many. So the point is even if your numbers drop down small, what is your power and authority? Are you handling and managing the economy? Are you managing and handling the manufacturing? Do you have the knowledge and the wherewithal? Do you know the magic books that are contained in physics formulas? Do you know how to do that? Can you work that? Well, black people, brown people, yellow people, red people can, but when you've got a bunch in between that don't bother with it, the people that know how to manifest power run. You don't need a whole lot of them. You see? In other words, look at South Africa until they got rid of apartheid. 90% of the South African army that was holding the whole country in a condition of apartheid slavery, 90% of the troops were black, and they were holding themselves in this condition. See, a lot of times India's got all this land to grow crops, but it doesn't because it feeds cows because the cows are sacred.
Well, I want to play this last clip of Andrew Tate. This is only 1 minute and 30 seconds, and he's talking about world leaders bending the knee to Donald Trump, President Donald Trump.
In public, they stand up. Canada will never be the 51st state. We're proud Canadians. We're going to fight against them. Next day, Trump takes the tariffs off. Why? Is it because of the little stupid speech you made on Canadian TV that no one watches? Or is it because you called Trump and said, "Hi, Mr. Trump, what would you want me to do, Mr. Trump? Okay, I'll fix it, Mr. Trump. I'll fix the border, Mr. Trump. Sorry, Mr. Trump." Billionaires can lie. That's what they do. They stand up and say one thing, and they secretly do another. That's our politics as a whole, all in Europe, all these countries. Every single time you see a leader talk bad about Trump, if they're not currently getting wrecked, I guarantee you in private, they're licking his ass. Would you? Every single one of them. Guaranteed. Any one of them who's talking bad about Trump in public and in private is fucked, and they know it. So they just want to be the tough guy on TV. And the second the phone call's private, like Keir, he's like, I like Keir. Keir's all right. He's liberal, but he's all right. I like his vision. Of course you do. He signed the fucking contract. Of course you bent over. Of course you do. Fucking Keir. What's Keir going to do to Trump? Sit there and what? What's he going to say? No? Fuck off. Can't say no. He can't even fucking put a border up. He can't even say no to migrants. He's going to say no to fucking Trump. He can't even say no to a third world nobody without a passport. He's going to say no to fucking President Trump? Fuck no. Trump has every single one of these clowns exactly where they belong. All of them. All of them. And Zelensky made a fucking huge mistake listening to clowns, which are not only incapable of keeping him safe, but are going to instantly reverse and renege on their obligations when feelings and sentiments change. All of them. So I don't know what the fuck he's going to do. In public, they...
So many F-bombs.
What he's doing, he's working on trying to be the spokesman for the new crowd of enlightened black who is not enthralled to the Democratic Party.
Maybe. Okay. Well, one last thing. The Oscars was last night. I watched.
Who cares?
I watched it.
You did?
Yeah. But I watch it now for research purposes. But this is only want to bring up this one thing, right? So this movie called Honora. Apparently, I think they won 6 or 7 awards. They got more awards.
Never heard of it.
They got more awards than The Godfather. I never heard of it. I never. Can you come on?
Oh, I thought you knew what it was.
I never. I'm about to tell you. I never watched it, but I looked it up. It is a movie about sex workers. So she is the leading role in the movie. This young woman here, Mickey Madison, and she won an Academy Award. So she plays a sex worker in this movie who she ends up meeting, I guess one of her clients, but he is a wealthy oligarch from Russia. They fall in love. He marries her, and his parents from Russia come to America to try and get the marriage.
I've heard this now. Okay, I remember the plot line. Okay.
So where I'm getting at is they won all of these awards, and
it's a boring ass movie, isn't it?
No, I don't know. I didn't see it. However, when she was saying her acceptance speech, and I think they also won for Best Picture and stuff, they always thanking the sex worker community. So I want to just play her thing real quick.
Wait. Before we get there, how many times have I said over the years, Hollywood 50 years ago embarked on a pathway to glorify dysfunction, pimps, hoes, drug dealers, and other stuff, and here we go glamorizing the hoe.
Right. So that's why let me just play her clip real quick. And
forgive me, I'm nervous. I'm gonna read off of a paper, but thank you so much to the Academy. I grew up in Los Angeles, but Hollywood always felt so far away from me. So to be here, standing in this room today is really incredible. Thank you, Neon, Film Nation, Universal. Thank you to my incredible family, my mom and my dad and my sister and my little brother and my twin brother, Miles. Thank you for being my best friend, not that you have a choice. Thank you, Sean Baker, Sammy Kwan, Alex Coco, Drew Daniel Consultants. I also just want to thank you, Brighton Beach, for lending us your beautiful backdrop and incredible community. Also, thank you to Kennedy Schneider. Thank you to our incredible consultants. I also just want to again recognize and honor the sex worker community. I will.
Why would we honor? Oh, you tell me.
Yeah, let me finish mine.
We'll continue to support and be an ally. All of the incredible people, the women that I've had the privilege of meeting from that community has been one of the highlights of this entire incredible experience. I also just want to recognize the thoughtful, intelligent, beautiful, breathtaking work of my fellow nominees.
Okay, so that was just I just want
Wasn't Robert Redford playing something like this about 40 years ago, a movie where this same plot line had, but there weren't Russians? And what was that lady with the red dress?
What?
There was one called The Lady in the Red Dress or something like that, where the same identical plot line came.
Oh, Pretty in Pink.
No, not Pretty in
No,
Pink.
with Julia Roberts.
No, she played in.
She was a hooker and she met the wealthy.
Played a hole, but she was a beautiful woman, and she played in Weird Science as the female goddess, sort of, that came out of the computer in that Weird Science. I can't remember her name.
I know you're talking about. She was a model, but yeah,
Yes, she played that same role. She was a hoe, and she got discovered. It's just they didn't have the Russian connection, but the same thing.
What movie was that? Woman in
I
Red?
remember the name of it, but
no, that's Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman, yeah.
That wasn't her in World Science. That's Julia Roberts.
Julia, well, okay. Who was?
And that was Richard
That was
Gere.
her in the red.
Oh, that was Julia. Listen. I done saw that movie 1,000 times. Julia Roberts played the lead in Pretty Woman. She was the hooker. Richard Gere was the leading man.
Okay, well, which one was the one that played in Weird Science? She played in one just like that too.
That's another actress, but you're talking about the movie Pretty Woman. That's Julia Roberts.
Okay, well, there's another one. This chick that wore a red dress.
Lady in Red movie or something?
Yeah, she played the same part, the whole 9 yards worth. It was the plot line is there's a prostitute. And
The Woman in Red.
Woman in Red, yeah.
That's with Gene Wilder.
Yeah, but who was the woman?
Who was her name? She was hot back in the day. Her name is it Kelly LeBrock?
LeBrock, yeah.
Yeah. Honey, you taking it back. That's before my time. I do.
But she was in this sci-fi thing called Weird Science. It was a comedy too. So I mean, the plot is not new. So once again, in 2024, 25, they're honoring Dysfunction, where she says all of the magnificent was ladies in the sex trade. Yeah, they're hoes, for God's sake. You know.
So I wanted to highlight this because Isaiah Washington, he's the disruptor. That's his name on X. He posted this, and I have to agree with it. He says it's an inside job. Traditional Hollywood doesn't create movies for their audience. They make movies for themselves and agendas and compel their audience to pay for it. They give away Oscars to bring more global.
He and I have had conversations.
You let me finish.
Go ahead.
They give away Oscars to bring more global attention to their domestic bank accounts. This situation is akin to how the U.S. government forces its citizens to pay for things they don't support. They allow you to watch their victims laugh, cry, and thank everything and everyone but God as they hold their golden ideolatry for the future victims to want to aspire to sell their bodies, minds, and souls for a worthless golden statue of a bald and dickless little man.
Well, he and I have had conversation about this. We're friends. So, yeah, as I've said, they're pushing an agenda. That's what he agrees with me on that. I agree with him on that. They're pushing an agenda, this agenda of dysfunction to effectively emasculate the American public, which went as far as it was going to go before the citizenry rebelled. Fortunately, before it was too late. But you can hear, we just listened to some of that nonsense earlier today from the two mammies that we saw, three mammies we dealt with, where they're trying to keep pushing that sick agenda, glorification of dysfunction. So how can you sit up there and gush over a bunch of hoes that are in the sex trade business? Come on now.
Mm-hmm.
You got disease getting spread. You got this kind of dysfunction going on out on the streets.
It's not glamorous. They want to glamour.
And I represented a whole bunch of.
Yeah, it's not a glamorous industry.
It ain't glamorous. It's filthy, drug-addled.
A lot of women get murdered.
Yeah, and it's just degrading all across the board. It's a filthy thing. So, I mean, and she wants to make it nice. That's absolutely ridiculous. It's pushing this agenda that started off 50-some years ago of glorifying dysfunction. So how in the hell did that get best movie of the year? And by the way, it's a fraud. I agree with him. If you want to find out who's going to win, visit the LGBT main site and they'll tell you a week before who's going to win the Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
It's a reward thing, not from doing the best movies. See, when the Oscars started off a long time ago, every Thursday and Sunday night, every movie theater in America got 2 new movies and a bunch of new cartoons. So imagine that. That's twice a week. That's 104 movies times 2. That's 208, 210, 190 movies every studio had to make a year. All right. So what happened is, to guide the public in what to go see, because there were so many movies, they had the Oscars. So these movies had not been aired or displayed or screened when the Oscars came out. It was guidance to the public as to what to go see. Nowadays, the thing came out, spent a week before it went to Blu-ray or Netflix or something, and it was a flop. But now they give out rewards for the flops. Like, did you ever see Moulin Rouge? It won about 25 years ago, got all these awards for best movie and best song and all of that. It was a horribly boring, dull movie. The special effects were awful. They couldn't dance. The songs were flat and off key. The plot line was stupid. And the whole aspect was, good Lord. And people would walk out of the movie theaters. They'd all crowd in there. Oh my God, I do want to see. I know it's going to be a magnificent movie. And then in the first 30 minutes, the movie theater is empty because everybody's left because it was dull and boring.
It was. Well, yeah. So one last thing.
Oh, you saw it.
Yeah, so it was boring.
It was boring, but that was the best movie of the year. Now, what the hell?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm like, what the hell is this? But I agree with you. I agree with what Isaiah posted. So I just wanted to highlight that with the Oscars. And by the way, Halle Berry looked fabulous. I just put that in there, huh?
What was she there for?
Let me pull up the picture. Well, she's a
Did they give her an award or something?
No, she was presenting. She was presenting the award to one of the one of the people there. So let me get to her, what she had on. Gorgeous, honey. Let me share this. To me, she was best dressed. So gorgeous.
Not a bad looking woman at all.
And she's what? Close to 60. Fabulous.
Not bad.
Not bad. No, she is bad. She's bad.
Not bad.
All right. One last thing, and then that's gonna be it. And I'm like, let's see. And we already extended this show. So even though I didn't reach the goal, I'm too short. This show has already been extended. So one last thing. Our guy, he's going to make his debut with Ferrari March 13th. Can't wait. So he did he's on a cover of Time magazine, Horsepower with a black stallion. So fitting. And in the article, he is quoted saying, don't ever compare me to anybody else. This is Lewis Hamilton, the GOAT. I'm the
first. Well, in the end,
let me read this. Don't ever compare me to anybody else. I'm the first and only black driver that's ever been in this sport. I'm built different. I've been through a lot. I've had my own journey. You can't compare me to another 40-year-old past or present Formula One driver in history because they are nothing like me. I'm hungry, driven, don't have a wife and kids. I'm focused on one thing, and that's winning. That's my number one priority.
He's a player. But anyway,
So
I
he's
don't want to get,
focused. He's
but
focused
I
on winning that
know.
8th championship or
Yeah,
9th.
I know, but they get on it. They used to get on him about his focus because he was partying so much. But let's put it this way.
Partying and still winning.
Well, hold on. I put Formula One, not from 1949, where they like to start it, but when they had Formula One for Grand Prix racing that started with single seat cars, 1934, the championship team that year was Mercedes, driving a W25. He was 6 times world champion driving a Mercedes in the 21st century, 84 years later. He should have been 8 times world champion, but he got cheated out of it by a bad call when the race was finished by the race director, which got the race director fired. Now, he holds the record for the most wins in that 81-year history of Formula One. He has led more laps than any other driver in that 81-year history of Formula One. He has had the fastest lap more times than any driver in that 81-year history of Formula One. And there's one other person that's tied with him in being world champion 7 times, who also drove for Ferrari and for McLaren with him before he ultimately retired. His name is Michael Schumacher. He was a German. This guy has been on the podium more than any, in other words, you are 1, 2, or 3 more than any other driver in the 81 years of Formula One. And he got Mercedes, out of respect for Black Americans, to change the color of their cars from silver. They were called Silver Arrows to black, and the whole team wearing black. And now the number one race car team, Ferrari, has got the number one driver in the history of the sport. It ought to be good. And some people in the know are saying, hey, we don't know what the Ferrari can do when it is lightly fueled and it's set up, and they haven't even been setting the thing up to do fast laps. But he says he likes the car. And for a couple of the warm-up matters, at least one morning, he was the fastest out there for the testing, but that's not really what they're there for. So I'm looking forward to this first race. Let's see what he does. I think he will take a couple of races to familiarize himself with the car in the heat of combat.
Mm-hmm.
Go on. And there's one other little thing too. It is not Lewis Hamilton. It is Sir Lewis Hamilton.
Yes.
Who was knighted by the Queen. And she made a notation that, unlike so many who just bought their way into knighthood, he actually faced mortal peril doing what he did to lead to knighthood, which is a modern approximation for what you used to get knighted for, which was a badass risking your neck. Mm-hmm. And every time he straps on a race car going 240, 250 miles an hour, I guess he does that.
Let me get to a super chat. I did say thank you to Natasha. Thank you. And this is Amber. Judge, remember you said hike up her hemline, Kamala, and I know a hoe when I see a hoe. Off topic. Sorry, love you. Needed a good tummy laugh.
Yeah, well, I remember that. I used to represent a lot of them. 2 strippers.
Anyway, Formula One Drive to Survive drops Friday on Netflix. Can't wait. And then the official Formula One season starts March 13th in Australia.
By the way, Hamilton is one of the producers of this movie that they've got Formula One starring Brad Pitt.
Oh, he is one of the producers. I didn't know that.
Yeah. In fact, he's one of the directors too.
He's not a director.
Yeah, he's a director and a producer.
He didn't have time to direct this movie. No, he did not.
Well, that's what they said on some of
No,
that.
he did not.
I mean, I sent you the article. It's in Formula One.
Yeah, and I'm about to pull it up. He's not the director.
Well, one of the articles said he was producer and director, and another one said he was a producer. So I don't.
It's one producer. You only have one producer in a movie, and that was
the problem is
that was Joseph Kosinski. He's the producer.
Yeah, but
Lewis Hamilton is one of the. I mean, he's the director. Lewis Hamilton is one of the producers. The other producers are Lewis Hamilton, Brad Pitt, Jerry Bruckheimer, Jeremy Cleaner, Dee Dee Gardner, Chad Oman, Joseph Kosinski, who is a director. So Joseph Kosinski is a director and one of the producers.
Well, let me put it this way. I used to be shop foreman for SAG-AFTRA on my show until they made me a producer. So I'm a member of the Hollywood Producers Guild, but Producer and Directors Guild. They're two distinct tasks, but the hard part is the producer's got to set everything together. The director is going, okay, this that the producers have set up. Now, if you know what's going on, sometimes producers do fill in for that. So maybe, I guess I was wrong on him being a director, but
you don't got time to be directing.
I mean, directing isn't technically as
he don't got time to be doing none of that.
What I'm saying is
producing, yeah, because they consult with you, you put your input or whatever.
Yeah,
you don't got time to be directing.
No, what I'm saying
if you remember during last season, they were filming.
Well, what I'm trying to say is I did one time direct my own show during the third year I had it. I did not have a director. So what wound up happening is I found out about that. So I was technically elevated the next year to being a producer.
I follow him on Instagram.
I know, but what I'm just saying is
I'm answering her question.
Yeah, I know, but it's good for it. Directors show up on the set.
All right, we gotta go.
They plan what they're gonna do, and the producer puts the whole thing together. Now, I thought he would be a director because he would be out there, I guess would be consultant saying, this is how this would look. And if you want this shot to look real, you need to put this, and this in there. And that's how you do it.
That's what a producer does.
No, that's what a director does on a movie set.
No, that's not.
No, listen, I've done it.
I don't want to go back and forth with you.
No, well, let me just say
he didn't direct it. He did not direct it.
Well, if he didn't, but I'm just going to explain what the difference is. On a TV set,
we have to go.
Listen, very short. People might be very interested.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are. On a TV set, here's what happens. The cameras used to be on fixed columns. You couldn't move them. So the director was the person that did the setup, and the producer was the one that called which camera was going to be shot. In a movie, the role switches. The producer is actually acting as the director on a TV set, whereas in a movie, he is the producer and the director does it. On a TV set, the director fulfills the role of a producer because why? Old-time movie sets, they could move around with the camera. And on old-time TV sets, the camera was fixed. So the roles morphed. So if you get an award as a director in a television show, you're doing what the producer did in a movie. And if you are a director in a movie, you're doing what the producer does on a TV show. Now, that's just a clue.
All right, say goodnight.
Okay, well, good night. Buy some barbecue sauce, Judge Joe Brown BBQ. It's cold out there a lot of places in the country. Warm yourself up by getting the extra spicy.
I just looked it up. No, Lewis Hamilton is not directing a movie, but he is a producer and consultant. This is not for you. This is for the person in the chat. Give me a second.
Well, producer, I said consultant. Okay.
He said, Judge is right. Hamilton, he did not direct the driving aspects because he did not.
Well, that's a consultant.
No, I'm right, Amber. He did not. He did not. First of all, I've been following this movie with Brad Pitt and Desmond Idris. They were on the scenes during Formula One all last season, and Lewis Hamilton does not have time to direct any movie producer year because he's focused on, again, being the champion and the great. He is already the greatest, but he's focusing on getting another champion.
Well, let me ask one question. Why did they have Brad Pitt in here? And Brad Pitt is what, 67, 68 years old? 69? Isn't he a little old for the part?
60s, yeah. But listen.
And by the way, the guy that they have playing the black race car driver, I'm sure Lewis Hamilton is not that overtly emotional like the trailers have him being.
Well, first of all, Desmond Idris is fine as hell, and he's a really good actor.
I don't care about him being fine. I mean, if you're going to be doing that, you can't be going off all over emotional. Why do they have him doing it?
Drama. It's drama. And first of all,
but I mean, why do they want to make it?
The race car drivers get emotional too.
Yeah, but not like that.
Wait. Can I remind you, Lewis Hamilton, when he was cheated out the championship and he had the helmet on, but he was crying when his father was holding him.
Well, okay, fine. I mean, but I mean, overtly emotional.
But judge, as an athlete, when it's that, it's okay to be emotional because, like, that's an athlete. Like, you're talking about tip top. Like, you invest. You sacrifice so much to be the best. So
I know some professionals.
You have a right to be emotional because of your craft.
Wait, hold on. It's not that I'm unacquainted with some of the best athletes in the world. Magic Johnson has been over to my house, been over to his. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and I were classmates. I met Jim Brown, the football player. I met Muhammad Ali. One of my brothers was his bodyguard for several years. Okay, it's not like I haven't met these guys, and these are the best of the best. And I just don't imagine them as being just generally emotional like they had.
No. See, you're talking about everyday life. Like I'm not with. No, and you're getting two things conflated. When you are doing your job, especially when you are an athlete, all athletes get emotional. They get angry, they get frustrated, they get happy, they get overly excited, whatever the case may be. When you're doing your job, that's what happened in that clip that we were seeing.
Well, I played football in college.
Let me just say thank you to Amber. Wait 1 second. Let me say. Wait 1 second. 1 second.
The lawyers getting all crying.
Stop. Thank you to Amber for the donation. Thank you. And Wab Funk, he consulted on. No, he don't get driving credit. He's a producer. That's what producers do. They consult. Stop.
Well, no, producers and consultants are not the same thing.
Forget about it. The show is over. I gotta go.
Okay, but why do they always show these guys, especially the black ones, who are doing something is overly emotional, tear-stained, whatever in the hell they're supposed to be? I'm talking about the part. He's not playing Lewis Hamilton. He's just in the movie as the black stand-in.
No,
he has to have him emotional.
No. He's not. Nobody's not playing any known race car driver, but he's not a stand-in. He has a major part in that.
I know, but why they gotta make him overly emotional?
We haven't even watched the movie.
I saw the trailer on
it.
I
saw the unofficial trailer, and I saw that part. He was upset in the moment after a race car. So, and he threw a helmet. That's okay when you are an athlete. So thank you, Coco. Yes, I reached my goal. Thank you so much. And we went over an hour because this is technically 2 hours. So we did go over, but so thank you guys so much.
Okay. I just don't get it. I think they show the characters.
Oh, they shut the fuck up. And I was nice all day. Just shut the fuck up. Don't tell me what look good, what don't look good. If I want to sit up here and argue with whoever the fuck I want to argue on my platform, I'm going to do that. And this is not arguing. Me and him watch Formula One every goddamn season. And I'm letting you know right now, Judge, we're doing that damn podcast.
Well, yeah, okay.
No more protests.
Let's see.
No more protests.
I hope he didn't jump ship at the wrong time, because the fastest car out there is a McLaren, and it seems like the second fastest was the Mercedes he just left. So hopefully Ferrari.
Somebody tweet. I think did I send that tweet when somebody said that's messed up if Toto collected all that data when Lewis Hamilton was in that busted car for the last 3 years, and now with all that data they collected, they created the perfect car, and Hamilton is not even there.
Yeah, well, that's one problem. The second fastest driver out there was his old teammate Russell. Overall practice.
But Lewis Hamilton, listen, Lewis Hamilton, it's like, that's not the season. When the season starts, that switch come on. So I'm just letting you know, I don't want to hear shit about I'm tired, I'm busy. We're going to do 30 minutes, just 30 minutes of a podcast. Don't play with me. Don't play with me.
Okay. Producer and consultant Hamilton is expanding into the movie business. He already does music, and he certainly races cars, and he's doing a few other things. I understand he wants.
Are you going to watch the Netflix new season of Drive to Survive the Formula 1?
No, I'm not.
Why?
Because it's not real.
It is. It's the reality of what goes on behind the scenes during the season.
Reality of what goes on behind the scenes.
It's not a movie. It's
well,
the drivers.
Look, when you watch a legal movie, do you want to see the reality of folks sitting in the library until 2 a.m. in the morning?
It's not a movie. It's a series. They recap the season of Formula 1.
But I don't want to see what's behind the scenes. I want to see the real stuff. If you want
and then because we get to see what happened in the meeting with Lewis and Toto. Because I saw the clip. In the clip, Toto was like, he comes to me and tells me he going to a Ferrari. I thought it was amicable. I thought that Toto was giving him a shitty deal, and he was like, no, I don't want that. So I'm just going to leave. He went to Toto and said, I'm leaving. I didn't know that.
Okay, well, here, all I'm saying is I resent the fact that whereas years ago, you could open up Road and Track, Car and Driver, the British magazines, racing, whatever, and you'd get these in-depth technical breakdowns on the engines, braking systems, suspension.
We want the drama.
I want to see that. All this
stuff out
people gushing in front of the camera that don't know what they're talking about, and we never hear anything technical. Some of us have hot cars, and we might want to see what the latest is. I mean, people do that still. So what is it with how you match an electric motor with a gas engine? What's going on? Tell us.
We don't want to see the
yeah, we do. That's because you women don't want to get into it. We men want to hear about it. And it's boring when you don't. It's boring when you don't. And they get into all of this gossipy bullshit that is just totally boring, when they could be talking about how they get the horsepower. How do you get that much horsepower out of a 1.5 liter engine, V6? We're talking 1,100 horsepower when you put the electric motor and the gas engine together. How do you get that out of something the size of a Harley Davidson motorcycle? We're interested in those things.
Who is we?
Me, we men.
You want to know.
Well, me, but I know some other men that want to know.
Okay, so
for example,
DNA. Wait, one second.
For example,
it's in your DNA to want to know the breakdown.
Okay. Do you have pull rod or do you have push rod suspension? Okay. Explain that. It's important because some of us might have an interest in car engineering. Seems to me push rod would be more complex because the rods bend when they push rather than when they pull, they straighten out. You can have a lighter rod, plus you put it down low, it reduces the car's center of gravity. Why don't they discuss that kind of thing instead of just focusing on who ate what for dinner or some kind of glam stuff? We got enough of that dumb shit.
But they
you
don't
can't go
focus
to
on
a
that.
football game and people go, oh my God, where are the yellow and the black lines? No, that's generated by a computer on the screen. There are no lines on the football field like that. They're all chalk lines. You mean they don't have those? No. Have you ever been to a real football game before? And by the way, why do you need all of that? See the chain over there? What's the chain? That thing over there. See where the guy's got the pole up with the circle at the top?
Do you have Netflix? Do you have Netflix? Before
yes, I do.
We're going to watch. First of all, I binged the whole series when it drops. So I'm going to make sure that you want to at least watch one episode.
No.
Say goodnight.
Bye.
You gotta say goodnight to the audience.
I did. I should buy some barbecue sauce. It's cold outside. The spicy warms things up.
All right, everybody. Say good night.
All right.
All right. I'm gonna put you backstage. Bye.